Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Galaxy Garlic from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and it says, am I the arsehole for reporting my co-worker for cheating in the company walking competition? At our last meeting, they announced there would be a step competition. Participation was voluntary. If the average number of steps is greater than or equal to 5k per day, all participants get Friday half day. The person with the most steps overall wins an Apple Watch. We would log our steps during workdays only for 20 days. I've been in a funk lately and was glad for an excuse to get back into my fitness routine. I love running and asked if steps from running could be counted. Matt, who volunteered to manage the competition, said it did. My goal was 20,000 steps a day, thinking this would easily put me in the lead, but on day one, this guy Dave posted 23,000. I sent him a message on Teams, saying something along the lines of, "It's on." The next day, I put up 24,000. He answers back with 25,000. Another worker, Jenna, also joined in. The three of us started having daily chats about our workouts. By week 2, it's looking certain one of us will win, and the whole group is absolutely getting a half day off work. Then I checked the log, and out of nowhere, Tiffany, who'd been posting 10 to 15,000 per day, posts 65,000 steps. For perspective, the marathon I ran resulted in 52,000 steps. So I'm skeptical, but also maybe Tiffany ran a casual ultramarathon on a workday. Who knows? I sent her a Teams message. That's a lot of steps. What's your secret? She said she plays volleyball and wanted to count the steps from her games, but can't safely keep her phone or watch on her to keep count. To solve this problem, Matt looked up a chart online that gives a step equivalent for other activities. Example, volleyball equals 89 steps per minute. Tennis equals 133 steps per minute, etc. Fair enough, but the math still ain't mathin', so I said, wow, you must have played for like 8 hours. Her reply, well, I also rode my bike. Now, this is where I call bullshit, so I clarified. You counted riding your bike. Turns out she didn't just use the chart for volleyball, she used it to count everything she did and convert it into steps. Bike riding, stretching, yoga, washing the dishes, all great, but those are not steps. This seemed pretty lame to me, and I just said, I don't think that's really in the spirit of this competition, and immediately went to Matt to ask her about this chart, specifically if bike riding counted towards steps. He said bike riding didn't count. It was too different and also unfair since not every employee has access to a bike. I thanked him for clarifying and told him that Tiffany may also need some clarification. Not 2 minutes later, I get this message from Tiffany. Really? You complained about me? That's actually not in the spirit of the competition. I lost a pet recently and have been so depressed. I've been struggling to lose weight and was so proud of my steps from yesterday. Not everyone can be a marathon runner like you. Really uncool. I knew I was being a little cheeky going to Matt, but Tiffany's message really took me by surprise. Am I the arsehole? There's a guy that I meet up with every so often when I'm out walking myself, and because I'm someone who tries to get my steps in, I'm trying to build up my stamina to start running, etc, etc, and I bump into this guy and we have a chat, and he had the exact same thing. His work set a competition for steps, and they was basically given a month in various teams to build up as many steps as they can. And they'd do it in little groups, and in the end they was going to win something. I can't exactly remember what they was going to win, but it obviously turned all these teams against each other, and there was fighting within the teams itself because they weren't pulling their weight with the walking, etc. This guy that I was talking about was getting really frustrated because he was going out and he was walking 2 to 3 hours a day, and he was putting in steps like 30 to 40,000 steps a day, and he was getting frustrated that some people were doing like 2,000. And I did mention once or twice, maybe some people just don't have that kind of time in the day to go out walking, or there could be a whole host of other reasons that they wasn't able to go out and put in some steps. I'd see this guy every week or so, and let me tell you, when I was talking to him, the resentment was just building up and building up. Not gonna lie, I was enjoying the drama because I'm a nosy bastard, you guys know that. But Big Flamingo says, your company is the arsehole for making you all compete against each other for a measly half day off. To be fair, they're not competing for the half day off. They all get that if they all participate, they're competing for an Apple Watch. And why shouldn't a company try and support efforts of self-betterment? Also, just to add, the guy that I was talking to, his team did eventually lose, even though he himself put in the most steps in the whole company, which was just, he was pissed. And he was telling me about how next time, like the top 3, they decided the next year that they do this, they're going to get together. So the people that came in the top 3 on the leaderboard are going to get together and work together next time to win. And I just thought, oh yeah, that's going to go well, isn't it? But the commenter says, I think these kind of things that pit employees against each other are not actually great for morale. Look at this person coming to Am I the Arsehole because of a fight they're now in with a co-worker because of this competition. That's why I think the company is the arsehole. Cowboy says, I can agree to that up to a point. It's not the company's fault that this woman decided to game the system. According to OP, there was a healthy competition between them and 2 others without animosity, and it bred good habits. There's always going to be cheaters, and it's not the fault of the people putting up the price for their sins. Review OK says, and quotes, that's a lot of steps. What's your secret? And then says, turns out the secret was cheating. It's just for fun and she took it too far. Not the arsehole. Commenter says, not the arsehole. Digesting ice cream also uses calories. Doesn't mean I should convert that into steps. W says, what if you have restless leg syndrome? Can you count 1,000 steps overnight? So OP came in with her update and said, so the feedback on my last post made me feel like less of an arsehole for sure. But what happened next definitely got rid of any remaining guilt I may have had. Tiffany won the steps competition. After I spoke with Matt, he tried to clear things up with Tiffany, but in his words, she was combative and rude. So it ended up in looping in our HR rep, Jill. Jill decided that Tiffany could keep her 65,000 steps and the rules would just be clarified for everyone going forward. Well, going forward, Tiffany continued to post 35 to 40,000 steps every single day. Less ridiculous than 65,000, but still ridiculous considering we all sit at desks 8 hours a day. It was still a tight race between the 4 of us. Because we, Dave, Jenna and I, had been posting higher than Tiffany prior to 65,000 steps per day. Then Dave got sick. He only posted 4,000 one day, and that was enough for him to fall too far behind. Then I had something urgent and time-consuming come up at work and only got 10,000 steps that day. That was enough for me to fall too far behind too. So it was basically up to Jenna at that point, and she was really working for it. Even got up at 4 AM the last couple of days of the competition to try and max out steps. The highest she ever got to was about 41,000, and in the end Tiffany beat her by about 250 steps overall. Tiffany had zero issue happily accepting her award at the next company-wide meeting and gave this super annoying speech about how everyone did so great and how in the end she's just glad we all became more active and healthy. I never responded to the message she sent me about being depressed about her dog or whatever. At the end of the day, this is my job and I'm not trying to get into some messy and weird fight over an Apple Watch and an extra 4 hours on Friday. Johnny Mac says, in quotes, combative and rude, and then says, it should have led to a meeting with HR and a disqualification. Opie says, yeah, Tiffany has gotten away with stuff like this before in more serious work situations too. I don't get it. Grimwell says, HR is in her pocket. I wonder how. St. Elvis says, in quotes, Jill decided that Tiffany could keep her 65,000 steps and then says, boo. Dino Score says, my petty ass will be telling Tiffany it's a good thing she won that Apple Watch so she can find out how many steps she's actually doing in a day. Ooh, spicy. Shadden says, I gave up a walking competition due to a similar abuse of the competition. The amount of steps per day being posted was 80k to 100k by a couple of people in a particular department. Not possible. No one is working 8 hours a day and walking over 40 miles as well. I complained. Nothing was done. Shoulders were shrugged, saying it was fine. Holy moly, that's a spicy office right now, isn't it? What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Love and Happiness from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And it says, am I the arsehole here for telling my mum I won't take care of her when she's old after she abandoned me as a kid? I, 29 female, was raised by my dad after my mum walked out on us when I was 6. She left to find herself and started a new family with another man. She barely kept in touch. No birthdays, no holidays, not even a call when I graduated college. For most of my life I accepted that she didn't want to be my mum and I moved on. Fast forward to a few months ago, out of nowhere, she reached out. At first I thought maybe she wanted to reconnect and apologize for the past, but no. She told me she was struggling financially, her health wasn't great and she needed someone to step up and take care of her. Bloody cheeky bastard. Apparently, her husband left and her other kids weren't in a position to help. I told her flat out no. I wasn't going to play caretaker for someone who abandoned me when I needed her. I reminded her that she made her choice years ago and I don't owe her anything. She got mad and started crying, saying, "But I'm still your mother. You can't just throw me away like I'm nothing." I don't feel guilty. She made her bed and now she has to lie in it. But part of me wonders if I really am being too harsh. Am I the arsehole here for refusing to take care of the one who abandoned me, even if she is my mother and we share the same blood? Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation and just a general overall manipulative person. She says to you that you can't just throw away like she's nothing. Throw that straight back in her face of what she did to you. But Distinct Pop says not the arsehole. She seems to be a narcissist and completely toxic. She hasn't been your mum. She was the egg donor. Don't feel bad. I cut out my bio dad for all the same reasons. I technically have a stepdad. To me, he is 100% my dad. Her other kids know how horrible she is, and that is the reason they don't want to deal with her. And one more comment from Outraged Pineapple who says not the arsehole. My mother? No, you are not my mother. You are nothing but an incubator, a vessel that held me for a time. A mother is someone who raises and cares for their young. A mother puts their children first. A mother would give her life, her soul, everything to keep their children safe and happy. You aren't a mother, and certainly not mine. I can throw you away like nothing because you are nothing. You're less than nothing. If you wanted someone to care for you, you should have shown that care first. I'm going to care for myself the way you never did. You can rot for all I care. End up in a ditch or a crappy senior home full of rats or roaches or whatever. None of it matters to me because you are nothing to me. Don't ever try to contact me again. Then block. And if she tries to reach out again, threaten to file for harassment. If anyone reaches out on her behalf, tell them you owe her nothing and point out her abandonment of you. That you can and will block them as well if you need to. OP updated and said it's been a day since I posted here and I'm very thankful to all of those who shared their thoughts on it. I just wanted to share what happened in the past 24 hours. She was still blowing up my phone with guilt trips, telling me I was heartless and that she did the best she could. When I didn't respond, she turned to extended family. Suddenly, I was getting messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, telling me I was a disgrace and that family is family no matter what. One aunt even said, "You regret this when she's gone." But the real kicker? I found out from my dad that she'd been telling people that she was forced to leave when I was a kid, painting herself as the victim in all this. She claimed my dad turned me against her and that she always wanted to be in my life, but I never let her. That was the moment I knew I made the right decision. I sent her one final message. You abandoned me. You don't get to come back now and demand my love and care like nothing happened. I owe you nothing. Then I blocked her. I don't feel bad. If anything, I feel lighter. I feel free. I feel happy. Lowe says to the OP after this one, that's honestly the perfect way to handle a shit situation. Glad you stood up for yourself. Twinkly Misty Puff says, I agree. Now she suddenly remembers she's a mother. Get the hell out of here with that nonsense. Family isn't just blood, it's showing up and she sure as hell didn't. Now that life kicked her in the ass, she wants someone else to fix it. Nah, she made her bed, she can damn well lie in it. Open Trouble says, her husband left her and her other kids weren't in a position to help. Can we wonder why? Seems like all of them went no contact. Enjoy your life, OP. I always find it weird when these relatives pop up out of nowhere telling OP what to do, with the family is family. Get the fuck out of here with that. You take her in. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Acceptable Weight 4341 from the Am I Wrong subreddit, and it says, "Am I wrong for no longer cooking for wife after she drunkenly admitted she wished her male co-worker could cook for her instead? My wife and I have been married for 7 years and together for 10. A couple of years ago, my wife had a male co-worker who used to cook for the office often. My wife used to always rave about his food, and it admittedly made me insecure, also because he looked like a Greek model. I also started cooking for wife around that time. I was never a serious cook, but I decided to give it a shot. Prior to then, I only used to cook basic food, but I decided to try cooking complex meals. However, a lot of times it didn't come out great. My wife used to help me, but I never was serious about it. One night, my wife was drunk and we just had a beef Wellington I had cooked. It was sort of a disaster, and my wife and I were both laughing about it. However, my wife then drunkenly admitted she wished her male co-worker could cook for her every day. I didn't fully grasp what she was saying as I was really drunk, but my wife realized what she said and she apologized. I told her it was alright and that was probably some attempt at a joke. However, the next day I grasped what she was saying and I felt really deflated. My wife sensed it and apologized again, and after taking a day to think about it, I told my wife let's not make a big deal about it. But also, I was never going to cook for her ever again. My wife again apologized and almost started crying. But I told her it was all in the past and let's move on. It's been 2 years then, and my wife and mine's relationship is stronger than ever. Over the past couple of years, I've also spent a lot of time taking cooking lessons from my sister, who's a really good cook. I learned that cooking just takes a lot of consistent practice, and you can't just learn it over the internet. You need to acquire the skill. And I can now confidently say, I am a much better cook than I was a couple of years ago. I cook for friends and for my family or my wife's family when they come over. The food I'm most proud of, and which I got a lot of compliments on, is the Valencian paella I made when my wife's family came over for Christmas. However, in spite of the progress I made, I can't find it in me to cook for my wife alone. I still remember the hurt and insecurity I felt a couple of years ago. My wife even stopped speaking to and taking food from the co-worker after that incident, and the co-worker has even left the company since. But I still can't find it in me to cook a romantic dinner for my wife. My wife has asked me a few times, and she says she's willing to do anything to repent or take accountability. But I tell my wife I've already forgiven her a couple of years ago. It's just that I cannot mentally bring myself to ever cook for her. Am I wrong? Commenter says to OP on this one, like others have said, it's time to put it behind you. Your wife made the effort and has been holding on the pain of resentment you feel for her for years now. You've grown as a cook, and now it's time to grow emotionally and come together with your wife. Your wife yearns to be close to you. OP says I am very emotionally close with my wife. It's just with this specific aspect. I can't bring myself to do it. My wife almost destroyed my love for cooking a couple of years ago when she made that comment. But I was thankfully able to get over a comment. My sister said if you're emotionally vulnerable about something with someone and they shit all over it, never ever repeat that mistake again, no matter how tempting it might be. She also taught me cooking, provided I kept my word that I would never cook for my wife again. It's a bit odd, isn't it? So even though I love my wife a lot, my conscience would not allow me to cook for my wife. Commenter says you haven't forgotten or forgiven her. Therapy might help. Another commenter says you're just lying to yourself, your wife, and now all of us. You have not forgiven her. And the last commenter says, I think you're not giving your wife enough credit. She stopped eating what a fellow worker cooked. She has apologized and really wants that one close thing. Enjoying an intimate meal you cooked just for her. You say you've forgiven her. No, my friend, you have not. You are still holding a grudge. I get that she hurt your feelings and made you feel insecure. But geez, 2 years. And you'll cook for everybody and their mother and still won't for her. That's cold. So OP comes in with her update and says, thank you all for the comments on my previous post. Pretty much all the comments told me I was very wrong and what I was doing was cruel to my wife. It was never my intention to be cruel to my wife. It was all about my mental health, but I understand now how it can be perceived as being cruel. I didn't want to make a big deal of it, so I told my wife this morning I would start cooking for her tonight and make her a special dinner. My wife was very excited and hugged and thanked me, and I'm nervous and excited and looking forward to opening this new chapter in our lives. I, however, reminded my wife again how she had almost destroyed my love for cooking a couple of years ago. I also gave my wife an analogy. My sister told me this morning to tell this analogy to make my wife understand the impact of what she said a couple of years ago. I asked my wife how she would feel if I drunkenly admitted to preferring hugs from Vanessa. Vanessa is my close childhood friend, because Vanessa has a softer and more feminine feel to her. I asked my wife if she would get over that comment if I even apologized the rest of our lives, and my wife admitted she wouldn't be able to get over that comment, and she apologized again for what she said a couple of years ago. But having said all that, I'm really excited about tonight. I plan on making my wife lemon butter lobster risotto and serve it with a glass of white wine. I hope to make it as romantic as possible, and I hope it comes out good. That's probably my final update. Thank you for the advice. Commenter says, wow, the Vanessa thing was weirdly specific. Next commenter says, it came from his sister as well. She's always had a hand in this. She's the one who told him to stop cooking for his wife. You really can't see what she's doing. Another commenter says, wrong analogy to use. You talk about finding your best friend more attractive than her, and worst, you talk about the way she feels when you hug her. What do you think your wife is going to think now every time she sees you talking to that friend, hugging her? That is unnecessarily cruel. She talked about liking the food of a coworker. You talked about liking the body of your best friend. You could have used a hobby as an analogy, for example, but you have now put a seed of doubt in her mind. And the last commenter says, years of punishment needed that cherry on top, huh? Holy moly, what was that analogy at the end there? And look, in the initial parts of the story, I get OP being hurt about what was said. Maybe like, what the fuck was that about? But he initially saw it as some attempt at a joke. The next day, it brought him down and he felt deflated about it. Your feelings are your feelings. But the wife sensed this and apologized again. And OP himself said, let's not make a big deal of it. But then tells her that he's not going to cook for her ever again and doesn't do so for 2 years. Then goes on to say that the relationship is stronger than ever. I'm just like, no. And then when you listen to the comments and you start moving past it and you say that you're going to cook for her tonight and it's all very excited, you then go for her again and say that how she almost destroyed your love of cooking a couple of years ago. And then came out with it, which, to be honest, is a weird ass analogy in my opinion. I agree with those comments. And was it just me, or did it felt like it's the sister's involvement in all of this just came across as weird as shit? But I get leaning on your family and stuff for support, but the sister told OP to come out with that analogy. What the fuck? But what do you guys make of this situation yourselves? How did you find it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.